have now interrupted your regularly scheduled programming to bring you.
A teenager in the hospital this evening awaiting a murder charge after a shootout at this home. Good evening. Police say the boy snuck into his girlfriend's home, got caught, and then shot and killed her father.
The teen was injured in an exchange of gunfire. Bess Casterly live in the newsroom with new details tonight.
The girl's father had tried to keep them apart many times before, but police say the teen murder suspect wouldn't stay away. Forbidden young love taking a deadly and criminal turn in Zachary.
The daughter had a boyfriend over, and the father came home, and there was an altercation.
A double shooting in this quiet neighborhood. Monday, police revealing new information. 17-year-old McQuarter going to see his girlfriend.
The suspect had got a ladder, got into the second story window to see the homeowner, Desmond Hamilton's 14-year-old daughter.
Something that was forbidden by the 14-year-old's father, Desmond Hamilton.
Other instances, I'm learning that when they lived at a prior place, an apartment complex, they used a ladder to get in there. So this has been an ongoing issue, and that they was hoping to stop it, but it continued.
When Hamilton realized what was happening, he took action.
Desmond brought him downstairs and began talking to him. An argument ensued. They began getting onto the 14-year-old. As they were getting on the 14-year-old, shots were fired.
Another episode of the Warheads. Before we go any further, Roscoe, you just saw that video like I did, right?
Yes, I did.
What's your take on this, man? This is a very interesting case with this 17-year-old Nicholas McQuarter killing this 34-year-old father by the name of Desmond Hamilton. What's your take on what went down between these two in this whole situation?
I think that it was tragic. I think that it was a situation that definitely should have been avoided, could have been avoided. Ultimately, what we have here is just a kid who was just incredibly disrespectful at the end. Once you get to the meat of the story and find out what actually happens in the story. But yeah, the kid was, being, what's the word for it? But he just wouldn't listen because apparently they had their, they had run-ins before the situation that would be, the final situation for the dad. But just a bad situation. Well, but I'll elaborate more, but that's all I have to say for right now is that.
Yeah, you're right. In the article and in the news report, it brings out how, I guess, the family lived in an apartment complex and he had a ladder then. I'm like, this little dude, he just carries a ladder around because he had a ladder when he went to the house. They had moved from the apartments to a house. And he just, maybe he has a truck, he has access to a truck with a ladder on it. I don't know what this situation is, but I was looking up some laws for Louisiana because I thought that the age between these two were interesting.
Right.
It says, what is the age of consent in Louisiana? It says Louisiana age of consent is 17 years old. In the United States, the age of consent is the minimum age at which an individual is considered legally old enough to consent to participating in sexual activity. Individuals aged 16 or younger in Louisiana are not legally able to consent to sexual activity, and such activity may result in prosecution for statutory rape. Louisiana statutory rape law is violated when a person has consensual sexual intercourse with an individual under the age of 17 who is not their spouse. Now, I know that 14 is like a freshman in high school. 17 can either be a junior or a senior, depending on where on the age range spectrum they fall.
Right.
However, it was brought out in the article that the father didn't consent to this relationship. This boy he was a predator. He was being a psychopath. A father tells you, leave my daughter alone. You're 17, she's 14. You're supposed to sit up here and listen. And so I wanted to ask you, what do you think may have contributed to this boy's rebellious nature? Because it's more than just him. It's not more than just him killing the father, but the beginning stages of this rebellion. To sit up here and be sneaking into the apartment with a ladder, and then to follow suit to where this family lived and still be bringing a ladder to have sex with this underage girl. That's what I want to get to. What do you think may contribute to this mentality, this attitude of this young 17-year-old boy?
Well, me, I always go back to what's happening at home, first of all. So it always starts there. But to go even deeper than that, what's happening in the home and the influences that kids can be taken in, or people in general. But when you think about like some of the music, movies, games that kids are exposed to, the music for one thing, because when you think about movies, the movies, we at least those things are stressed as fictional things, for the most part, unless they're movies that are based on a true story, which with most, if not all of those, there's still fictional elements that are added to those. So you have that. But then when you talk about music and black music in particular, rap music, just anything based in the hip hop culture right now, you talk about not only the type of things that are being promoted from an audio standpoint, but also the visuals that are being shown. And there's a lot of destructive, a lot of crazy visuals that are being shown to kids, so there's a lot of, even in games, a lot of killing with no consequence, you know what I mean? So these are the type of things that I think of when you talk about what can contribute to building up these type of kids.
Yeah, personally, I do agree with you. I think he has been emboldened by, probably a lack of a real father at home. His father is probably just a baby daddy. The mom probably isn't instilling anything in him, because this is like outright rebelliousness. And from what I understand about the article, he had a stolen gun. So his reign of terror didn't just end with the murder. It was preceded by theft, breaking and entering repeatedly, because this was not the first time that this situation happened, which I find is interesting. Also, when you look at this situation, I'm going to look at it from, this is a young 14-year-old girl. First of all, her prefrontal lobe is not done developing. She does not even understand the emotional or the spiritual aspects of sex. All she knows is that her body is, giving her all these sensations that she's never felt before. But I think the girl is a rebel as well, because she's disobeying her father. Even if she was going to continue to see this dude, if she was smart, she'd have been like, I can't see you at home. Don't come to my home. We'll sneak away and steal time away at school. But she was still opening her home up to this thug. And I hate saying that term, because I know in the lexicon, thug is just a euphemism for nigga, when it comes to the dominant society. But that's what he was. He put himself out there to be just that. And so when I think of the situation, I think he was under the influence of the music and the video games. These things do have a desensitizing effect. Studies have actually been done on how desensitized a young mind can become by taking in violence. And by him being a young 17-year-old, I'm sure that when he stole that gun, He was probably talking to his friends like, yeah, if her daddy stepped to me, I'm gonna show him what time it is. Is there anything else that you could extrapolate from this? Because I have one more thing to say before I go further.
No, I mean, when you again, you said enough, and there's really nothing to extrapolate from this. Rather, beyond the fact that this kid was just out of bounds. It would have been one thing if now I would have had a whole nother argument probably had this been the first encounter between these two. Then maybe this would have been a situation of, maybe the kid was just frightened and didn't know what was going to happen. And, things just ended up happening the way that they do. But this was not that, you had the pre-warnings, and again, like you said, the daughter in this situation is almost as culpable as the young man, Nicholas in the situation. So, it's just bad all the way around. It's a bad look, and karma is going to come back for this kid. That's all I got to say.
Oh, yeah, because he's being charged with second-degree murder, and in the state of Louisiana, he's not even going to be able to be paroled on that. That's almost premeditated. I know there's going to be a gun charge, a breaking and entering charge, you name it. The thing about it, though, is when you really get to the bare bones of this situation. Let me ask you this: the first time it happened, would you say it's fair to have a conversation with the young man and say, don't be doing what you're doing, breaking in my home, coming to see my daughter? Would you say that's fair?
I would say that it's fair that you that you at least give this kid one chance. This is something that me and this particular thing that we talked about beforehand, but I as opposed to just wilding out and not giving this kid a chance, and I think it would have been, and that's probably something that the dad did beforehand. You know what I mean? Is try to come to this kid and say, hey, look, I know you're a young man trying to do your thing, whatever, but dude, don't do it over here. And my daughter is too young for you. So, he probably came to the kid the right way. But it would be fair, to at least give, any young kid in this situation a chance, because they're kids, you know what I mean? And more times than not, they don't know any better. But this particular situation, again, the warnings were there, so he knew better, but the kid was being indignant, and that was the word that I was looking for earlier, but that's exactly what he was being. Like he didn't care, how this situation was going to go. He was just saying to himself, I'm going to do me. And that's that. And if you step to me, I'm blaming your ass.
Right. Yeah, I see him as a young psychopath, hence Norman Bates on my wall. I view him as a young psychopath because only a psychopath would actually follow a family from wherever they used to live, even if the young 14-year-old daughter was in touch with him. He had no recourse whatsoever to say, you know what, this might be wrong. Maybe I should be talking to somebody in my age range. Nobody around him was telling him anything. And I know how rebellious young men are today. They are very rebellious, very disrespectful. They learn the disrespect from their disrespectful mothers, because that's who's raising them. Let's be honest. They see how disrespectful their mothers are, and they pick up on that disrespect and carry it out to the world at large.
Message.
What did you say?
Message.
Message. But this is not a laughing matter. But this is why I'm going to say that the father is the one who is at fault, because apparently there was a gunfight between the two in his home. And I know it was because he was trying to reason with this dude yet again. and the situation got out of hand. But let me tell you, like, let me just say how I would have handled the situation. After the first warning, and I knew that this dude I moved my family, he comes back to the home. The second he knew that boy was in the house, I would have just waited outside. Like, I was taking a drink, looking at the stars. And when I saw him beginning to sneak out of my home as he began to climb down that ladder, to descend down that ladder that he used to sneak into my home, I would have sat up here and grabbed that ladder, thrown it on the ground, and commenced to beat his brains out with one of my bats, my axe, my electrical billy club, something. And just told the authorities, I didn't know what was going on. I was in fear for my life, my family, my daughter, my dog, myself. I didn't know it was the boy who I had been repeatedly telling not to come into my home. You know, self-preservation is the first rule of life. You have to preserve yourself. And I think the father messed up by trying to reason with this young psychopath. See, on the psychopath side, he's with this young girl. You see what I'm saying? She's probably doing any and everything sexually to his young 17-year-old body. She's doing the double monkey backflips, sucking on every orifice on his body, probably his toes, you name it. I don't mean to get too graphic. But with a young, two underdeveloped brains engaging in sexual activity, there's not a whole lot that can stop them. Hell, Romeo and Juliet, they wanted to kill each other. They killed each other and stuff because they wanted to be together. And so this is no different, you know. But as a father, it's your job to understand the breadth and the gravity of what's going on inside their bodies. And if you just so happen to kill a young psychopath who just won't stop, even though you've warned him previously, it's on you to protect your family. At least that's what I would do. What about you, Roscoe?
No, I mean, the flip side of how to deal with this is put some of the onus on the young lady. You know what I mean? Like, actually, you know, me, after confronting the young man and dealing with that situation and talking to him, like, I'm going to my daughter next, and I'm gonna have a conversation with her, and I'm gonna tell her that you got a decision to make right now. You know what I mean? Because we didn't have to move because of this kid. So you either gonna go where he is, you know what I mean? So you could be with him if that's what that's gonna be, or you tell this dude to go on about his business, and we'll deal with it from that standpoint after that. You know what I mean? And it may result in some of those actions that you brought up already. But if he want to continue being indignant, but yeah, no, that's how I would deal with that. Is kind of now. Not only am I talking to the young man, but I'm talking to my daughter. Like, you gonna eat some of this.
Yeah, I think he had that conversation. That's why I say I would go, you know, take the full measure. I remember on Breaking Bad, I don't know if you ever watched Breaking Bad, but when Jesse was acting up, one of Gustavo's hitmen, for lack of a better term, Gus, Giancarlo Esposito, he tells Walter White this story about when this dude was beating up on his girlfriend and how he threatened him and beat him up and all this other stuff, and how he went away. And then he came back and the man killed his girlfriend the next time they got into a domestic altercation. And he was saying the first time he took a half measure when he should have taken a full measure. As a father, being a protector and a provider for your family, yeah, you do have that conversation with your daughter, but maybe her body was calling towards that boy. I'm sorry. I should slap myself for calling him a man. Her body was calling for that 17-year-old psychopathic boy who wouldn't leave her alone, who should have been messing with other people his own age. And so once you address that with her, and you see, like, she's probably a rebel in the house.
Yeah, no, that's the point that I was gonna bring up. And my bad for cutting you off. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But no, that's exactly where I was gonna go. Is you might be dealing with a young lady who's in herself being a rebel and causing all these issues. When he's trying to stop this thing, she's aggravating the issue even further. So yeah, no, that is so. In that sense, like then maybe full measures and all that is you go full sting. You know what I mean? Because you'll have some of these young ladies, they just all over the place and ain't no containing them. You know what I mean? So that's why I was saying, like, in my scenario, you might have this wild out kid that, hey, you're gonna have to make a decision, little wild girl. You know what I mean? You want to be fast out there. You know what I mean? But if you want structure and control and to do the right thing, then you gonna be over here and he gonna be out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a passionate situation for me because I'm a father and I have a daughter. I never had to deal with a situation like this, but on the outside chance that I would have had to have dealt with a situation like this, I'll just say this: I'm not the type to take a half measure. That being said, come follow us as we go in on these topics. Like, comment, subscribe. Warheads.